can center the focus, the attention of people. I don't generally like the word idol, because I know that I was, as the viewers know, I was raised Christian. So being raised Christian, I know that when we talked about the sacred images of other peoples, we called them pejoratively idols. So I don't use the word idol. I think that those images are things to help us focus and center our attention. We don't, when you go to a statue of Martin Luther King, we know that Martin Luther King is not there, right? But this is a way for us to remember something important. And in fact, if as a historian, now let me step back and talk as a historian rather than as a spiritual leader for a second. As a historian, I'm going to tell you that those things that are recorded, those things that have been found, the material culture of the world is extremely important, because were it not for those incredible images of our ancestors, the Tomhu would have erased us entirely. Entirely. It's the Tomhu. I'm sorry. The Tomhu is a European. Yes, I don't use the word European. It could possibly yeah. Yeah. Well, you know, I don't necessarily call them devil, although I understand why.
Right.
I understand.
But we just means deceit.
The Tomhu has done some very devilish things, so I'm not disagreeing with that. I'm just saying Tomhu. Now, here's the thing that's really interesting. We gave them their names. Europe is an African goddess from Carthage.
Bring it out, man.
So we have to recognize that the first time that many global people were called, it was the elder, the African, that gave them their names. And so when I say Tomhu, it means like the northern people, right? Okay. Now we call it northern now. We probably would have said southern, but let's keep in mind that that was the name that we gave to those people that we would call European today. So instead of actually calling them European, which I do sometimes for shorthand, I don't like to use European because it presupposes that Europe is a continent, which, folks, it is not. You go and you Google a map of the world and you'll see that Europe is not a continent. So what has happened is those people have elevated themselves. They've elevated themselves. And so I don't usually use the word European. In teaching moments, I use the word Tomhu, because I think that is the most appropriate way to describe them. Okay. So back to the temples. Back to the temples. So in a spiritual setting, people from the beginning of time have tried to codify their highest teaching.
Right.
And so when we look at the temples of ancient Kemet, this is exactly what we see. We see that they were teaching institutions. We see that they were medical and scientific institutions. The first hospitals, the first surgery takes place in recorded history in what is called the Per Ankh, the House of Life, on the side of ancient Kemetic temples. It was our African ancestors that gave medicine, that gave science, that gave, and let's even be clear, spirituality to the world. And so when we go to those sites and we see those images, those symbols, we have to understand that talking about spirit, talking about energy, talking about that stuff that unites all people and all things is a powerful thing to do. And that's why we erected these temples. Not because we believed that, and I know you use the word Osiris. I know who you're talking about. It's not that I'm disagreeing it on that sense. I just, as a teaching moment, I say Asar. Right. Because I truly believe that I know that our ancestors believe that words are important. And that using certain words, particularly when we're talking about our ancestors, allowed them to continue to exist. And so that's the reason.
Y'all got the white boy.
Hold that mic. Hold that
Listen,
mic.
That's polite partner right
Hold
there.
that mic.
Polite. Listen, polite. Not only will he let her wear, he'll let that white dog wear it too.
But wait a minute. But isn't that your brother? There? Is that your brother? He's more closely related to you than I am.
But the Arabs are too.
So I'm afraid that if I go to fight him, you might catch me from the behind because you got your man's back. You know what I mean?
That's Isu.
I'm teasing you. I literally am teasing you because look, but what part of it did I answer? I talked about the temples.
No, I didn't ask you to describe the temples.
You asked me why did they construct them?
Saying that it was mythos that they just.
I'm sorry.
Again, like he did all that talking, but did not answer the question. He dropped some knowledge and stuff like that or whatever. My question was, I'm gonna repeat it. He's saying that it's mythos, that it's about the principle. Meaning you're supposed to get the principle from it. From what I understand, and I would never claim to be an expert on Kemet at all.
Okay.
What I will say is that I've learned a lot from my interactions since I've been dealing with brothers like yourself and stuff like that.
That's cool.
But from what I've seen from different points of research, and then depending on which Kemetic brother you're talking to, because even y'all differ on some of the basic, because even y'all differ on some of the basic principles. What I mean by that is, I'm a sidebar just for a second.
Sure.
You got different Israelite groups, right? Got different Israelite whatever. The one principle that regardless if you call yourself GMS, GOCC, IUIC, ISUPK, whatever it is, the one thing that we all start and know is that we're the Israelites. We know that we're in that Bible and we break it down. We may differ on certain things, but that basic core thing we agree on. So, but depending on different Kemetic brothers, like I think Sanetta had asked me a question about who do I regard, and I put you, Reggie, and Shaka in the same category as far as giving it more level of seriousness than somebody like Unc or Polite or something like that. I think they treat it like shit. But y'all, I'll say, will have a level of sincerity as far as the Kemet goes. So I say all that to say,
We support them, though. I'm not going to let
We
you
do.
that, but we support
We
them.
do. But let him finish.
Okay. I'm just saying, just for the camera, just to let you know.
We don't want to think that we're insulting somebody.
I'm insulting. If anybody want to know, I'm insulting. All right? They're not insulting.
Question, Captain.
But what I'm saying is that if it's not real, why are they renovating it with temples? Why do they renovate it with temples? Why do they have the mummified dogs? They found over, I said 1 million. When I looked it up, it's like 8 million mummified dogs. Why do they have all of them? Cats, whatever you want, every animal. I mean, y'all worshipped a lot of damn animals that y'all was saying were different spirits. That's why you got the ostrich head, etc. So my point is, if it's to be taken as a principle, are you saying that it's a man-made religion? That's like, I guess, 1 and 1A. So the first thing is, why would they have the temples and the mummies? And then second, if it's just a principle, is it a man-made religion that they saw and observed and then created their own ideology?
I think both of us are going to want to. Okay. No, you got to go first because you haven't spoken. Go ahead, please.
Thank you. Okay, Captain. Shalom. Hotep. Okay, I'm not against you. I'm just gonna. I'm not gonna try to change your mind. I'm simply gonna expand your
Y'all
mind.
say that all the time. I don't get offended by nothing.
Okay, no, that's and I know.
Come at me.
No.
all right.
First of all, the reason why we built the temples at the times that we did is because we could. What does that mean?
Bring it out, Betsy. Bring it out, baby.
We had the science, right? And the science directed the spirituality because it had to make sense. For example, all of the temples have a scientific purpose. For example, the pyramids, right? They had a scientific purpose, right? Many of the temples reflected just time, the sun rising, the sun falling. Some of the temples resurrected the seasons, right? The different solstices that are coming in, right? Some of them talked about the cycles of the universe, going all the way to Nafta Playa. So the simple fact of it is we did it because we could, because we understood. The problem with the religions, right? And we'll talk to see if Nile Valley is a religion.
Still back then, right?
Right.
Not now. Okay.
No, I'm back then because you asked the question. Right. Is that when we looked at Re, which is the sun, it's not just a principle, which we gave the principles to, right? It has a scientific basis. The problem with religion is that they attribute all of these things to a God, a creator, and stopped you from thinking about the science. Now, the problem with the Bible, the Quran, the Torah, right? We have to now look at where does their science come from? What we find is that their science comes from when they enter into Kemet.
Bring it out, Reggie.
That is when their science begins. And some of that science is very, very similar to what they learned from the people of Kemet, right? And I don't think that you can deny that. Now that's science. Now we get to expanding it to religion and text. Well, we have to take science and sometimes it becomes religion, it becomes mythos because we use teaching tools to describe it to the rest of the world. You use teaching tools in your book to describe things to the rest of the world. For example, Abraham, right? Or how do you call him?
Abraham is fine.
You call Abraham, right? The fact of the matter is he's a teaching tool because we really don't know. We think that he comes from Ur, which is in Iran, and then he moves over and he goes to Sumer. We don't know what period, right? But in ancient Kemet, many of the people that we talk about, we know exactly what period they're in. So they're less teaching tools and more real. So that becomes so I just wanted to answer your question first. Now, yes, we do a lot of mythology. Some of the mythology makes sense to us. I'm a Nile Valley African who's a scientist. I'm not a Nile Valley African religious, right? So the religious part that don't make sense to me, I look at the period, the people, what were they thinking, who else was involved, and I try to find out if what they said makes sense. So I don't pray to any of these deities, but I find that they all have scientific principles that make sense. Okay.
Do you understand anything he said?
He didn't answer my question either.
Wow.
Wait, let's
What he did,
Get on the mic.
what he did was tell me the temples was resurrected for scientific principles.
Yes.
That's what he said.
Yes.
My question is,
Yes.
if they created Anubis and they're saying that it's mythological, why did they resurrect a temple to Anubis, have mummified dogs to Anubis? Okay. I ain't asking for the scientific, the lunar cycles and the sun go up and down and stuff like that. And then he brought up Abraham, which is the typical banter that you didn't interrupt Reggie.
No. Why are they mummifying real dogs?
A dog, if they thank you.
I got you.
That's my premise. And then they do the usual comedic two-step when they start mentioning the Abrahams and stuff like that. Abraham, I won't even debate the whole argument of whether he existed or not, because I'm not debating the Bible. We're talking about Kemet. But Abraham is identified as a living man. He has a mother, he has a father. Anubis is identified as a deity, as an entity, which they're telling me is mythological.
Right.
That's what they're telling me in this time. Right. But back then, they had a temple. You can go to the temple of Anubis. Bring your mummified dog. When they believe when you die, you go meet this cat. You go meet this cat with the feather, which is my eye. Now, I could be wording it wrong, but if I ever had to bring it out line for line, it's not a problem. But no. Hold on. You can't because when I asked you on my radio show and you said you was going to let them answer. So if none of this is real, why did they treat it as if it was real?